Are you tired of the cookie-cutter approach to education that's stuck in the last century? Are you seeking a win-win situation where your family thrives, your kid's education is revolutionary, and you still get to chase your own dreams? Welcome to Unschooled Unleashed. Unlock your child's genius. I'm your host, Matthew Jarecki, an unapologetic rebel dad and promoter of what many consider to be educational anarchy. You know the world isn't going to be won by those that just toe the line. It's the innovators, the visionaries, and the resilient spirits that are going to thrive. Our mission here is to forge those world changers within our very homes with less stress, energy, and time. Unschooled Unleashed starts now. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Unschooled Unleashed. I'm your host, Matthew Jarecki, and today we're going to talk about respect. Specifically, how to increase the odds of your children respecting you as they get older. An impossible task almost, right? At least through certain years. We'll give it our best. But before I do that, I want to address one thing. I have been very consistent in coming out with an episode every Monday for over a year. I missed an episode last Monday. And I just want to say, one, I'm sorry I do make it a priority to be very consistent. But two, life happens as well. And we had a little bit of a hardship happen to us in the past week. And I just decided that I was going to address that and not take away from that time. And that was just a judgment call. So I'm sorry if I let you down. That was not my intent, but I had to be there for someone, and that was a decision that I am proud I made, and I had to process through some of that, and I just wasn't in the state of mind to be able to give you an episode worth doing. Lost a lot of sleep over this issue, and that's okay. Still dealing with it. Everything's okay, so I do want to say that, but you know, life is messy, and I'm trying to let go of perfection because I did have the instinct to just come out with a quick episode that was probably not worth anyone's time, and I thought it's just best maybe to skip it and do it when I'm in a better state. It also teaches me that I should probably record these episodes well in advance to not get in that situation again. Again, mistakes are learning lessons, just as I always preach to my kids. So hopefully I'm able to adjust course and not miss an episode again. But thank you for coming back. It's been 2 weeks since you've probably heard me, and I really appreciate it. On that note, I think we should jump into today's episode. So with that, let's dive in. Today we're going to talk about respect, specifically children respecting you as the parent as they get older. I got a 10-year-old, almost 11, 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and we're now kind of in that preteen year phase that they're just not going to respect you as much unless you really work for it. And, boy, it's tough. So I did come across an article, and that's what we're going to cover today. An article in GE Editing is how I think you might say it, .com. And it's titled, "If You Want Your Child to Respect You as They Get Older, Say Goodbye to These 7 Habits." And I actually thought it was pretty good. I don't think they're an authority or anything like that because they use terms wrong. But I still thought it was pretty good. Either way. So one thing I would do want to mention, speaking of things that they got wrong, they use the word authoritative in the article, but I think they mean to use the word authoritarian. Let me look up the definition of authoritative. Authoritative means able to be trusted as being accurate or true, reliable. That's not what they're trying to say. I think they mean authoritarian, which means kind of like a dictator, right? authoritative parenting style is walking alongside your children through a process of self-discovery that you each kind of go through. You grow with your child. You're not, at the top looking down, commanding, telling them what to do all the time. No, you're helping them explore life. And that's the approach that I tend to take, is the authoritative approach, not the authoritarian approach. So in this article, they're going to use the word authoritative if you actually look it up, but I'm going to use the word authoritarian because it's pretty clear that's what they mean. All right, so let's jump in here. I'm going to read some of the stuff they have, and I'll try and make a clear distinction between what they're reading and then the commentary that I give. So here's what they say. There's a clear line between earning your child's respect and simply expecting it because you're the parent. This line lies in the habits we exhibit. Our kids pick up on these habits, and as they grow, they either respect us more or less because of them. And I think that's accurate. If you want your child to respect you as they get older, there are certain habits you need to let go of. In this article, we'll be exploring 7 of these habits that could be standing in the way of gaining your child's respect. This is interesting to me already because I'm going through that myself. That's my commentary. All right, so we're going to jump into the first one. I'm going to read what they got, and then I'll do my commentary. So being overly authoritarian. Again, they say authoritative. I think they mean authoritarian. It's going to become clear. Maintaining discipline is crucial when raising children, but there's a thin line between discipline and dictatorship. Often, parents fall into the trap of establishing an overly authoritarian environment. We might think it's the best way to maintain order, but in the long run, it can lead to a lack of respect. When children feel like their voices are not heard, they start seeing their parents as oppressors rather than mentors. Don't get me wrong, setting boundaries is important, but it's equally key to allow your child some autonomy. Let them make decisions and learn from their mistakes. This way, your child will not only respect you more as they grow older, but they'll also develop valuable life skills. Now, a chance for my commentary. I totally agree with this. I do believe that there are times to pull rank as the parent. For example, your kid tries to run out in the street. You tell them no, they don't want to listen. Well, too bad. You're going to listen. I think that's an extreme example, but I think that as we start to look at maybe them developing poor habits in the way maybe they treat people or the way they interact with, the world itself in general. When I see my child or any of my children doing things that are setting them up for failure, meaning they're creating a poor habit, I do pull rank on them at times. Now, sometimes, and this is probably the majority of times, I allow them to learn the hard way, and I try and allow the consequences to flow from that. And then I walk alongside them and I say, do you see the consequences of your actions? And we just kind of learn from it together. And I think that's a much more productive way to do it rather than just telling them what to do and giving no explanation. I think being an authoritative parent, the authoritative parenting style, of discussing it with them, allowing them to explore, you positioning yourself as, I hate the word mentor that they used. I don't hate it. I don't like it. Trying not to use that word unless I really hate something. I don't like the word mentor because you're not a mentor. You're in this weird thing that I'm going to just call a parent, right? You're in the authority position, yet you're not riding your high horse and dictating to them. You're actually stepping down and just going through life with them and trying to support them, showing them that you love them, showing them that you want them to have what they want, but you also need to be in that authoritarian position at times where you're telling them what to do. You're going to get your shoes on. We are going to the store. This is not up for debate, right? There are times for that. I also think it's important to set boundaries. And they mentioned that. They said, don't get me wrong, setting boundaries is important, but it's equally key to allow your child some autonomy. Now, I agree with this, but I have decided to set boundaries with my children, very clear boundaries that they do not cross. We all have to function in this household. We all have to answer to someone in society. So there needs to be an established boundary in which they know they cannot cross. It's not full autonomy. You're not greater than anyone else. You're not, they need to understand that they aren't the only one that the laws don't apply to, right? So there needs to be some boundaries within the house. Otherwise, there's just chaos ensues. But again, autonomy is key. We're raising little adults. They're going to be adults one day. One day they're going to run the world. One day they might run your life if you're not capable. So we need to make sure those kids are competent. So we do need to let them make decisions and learn from their mistakes. I think that's how we as people learn. And that's why I tend to go towards that authoritative parenting style as opposed to the authoritarian. However, it has become very clear as my children have gotten old enough to argue and have their own opinion and really rebel. Maybe not really rebel, but have somewhat of a rebellious spirit at times. That I do need to pull rank. You're not going to talk to my wife like that. You're not going to scream at her and tell her you don't want to do that. That's not going to happen in this house. Period. That was my day yesterday. Oh, boy. Yeah, this is a very timely article. But I do want to establish myself as a person who walks alongside them for the future. That's what I see myself. They're 25 years old. They might be getting married. And then, as they get older, maybe having kids. And they're not going to know what to do. And they're going to need to go to someone. And if you don't establish yourself as a safe person to go to who can walk alongside them and tell them what to do, but just give them life advice and try and help them because you love them and just show that along the way, then I don't think they're probably going to go to you. Because I know my experience has been, there's certain things I go to my parents for, but there's other things I just kind of keep my mouth shut. Not because my parents were authoritarian, but because they're imperfect people and didn't make me feel safe to go down and talk to them about some certain things, even though I knew it would probably be. It just was uncomfortable for me. I want to make my kids very comfortable with coming to me about anything, and to have them know that I will love them and that I will, that I'm on their team. That's the role I want to play. And maybe you could use the word mentor in that kind of scenario, but truthfully, it's something totally different. You're still the parent. You're a parent mentor. I don't know what it is. We're reaching the limitations of my vocabulary with this. Moving on, I'm going to read what they said about tip number 2 to help your kids respect you when they get older, at least stack the odds in your favor. And 2 is not practicing what you preach. Break that habit. This one hit home for me, is what the article says. I remember how my daughter used to love drawing. One day she drew on the wall and I scolded her for it. Yet later that week, she saw me marking measurements on the wall for a new painting. She was confused and asked why I could draw on the wall and she couldn't. That day I realized that children learn more from our actions than our words. It dawned on me that if I wanted her to respect the house rules, I had to abide by them too. Letting go of this habit will not only earn your child's respect, but will also help them understand the importance of integrity and consistency. After all, we can't expect them to respect us if we're not respecting the rules ourselves. Now it's time for my commentary. Not practicing what you preach. So in our household, we have set up the rules of the house. We all agree to these rules. It's actually optional in our house. This is the best I got right now. The reason it's optional is because if someone wants to be the exception to the rules, I say in response, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to change the rules for you too, and everybody's going to play by the same rules. We're not going to have one set of rules for one person and another set for another person in this house. That's not the way this works. We're all going to follow these rules. So when they go over and they take, they go into one of the kids goes into one of the other kids' box that's their box that they store their stuff in that no one else is allowed to go in, a little bit of privacy, autonomy in that sense, and they take something out of it without asking, and they try and defend it, I say, okay, well, we could just change the rules to where everyone can go in everyone's stuff at any time they want and take it. Is that what you're advocating for? And I have never gotten a response of, oh yeah, that's what I want. No, they always step back and they say, okay, I don't want that. So I see why we shouldn't do that. And that's the lesson. With that being said, I have to follow those rules myself. I respect their privacy. Of course, there's limitations to this being living in this house, but I have to follow the rules too. So if I talk nasty to someone and they point it out, or I catch it myself, then I need to restore the relationship, apologize, repent, whatever it might be, and move forward. And I'm a model for them, so that way they know how to behave in the future, right? Because they're going to model. That's how humans learn. We look at someone else and we just say, I want to do that. I want to be that. So I'm going to adopt a lot of what they're doing. That's kind of the way the human mind works. And it's a quick hack in order to be able to change behavior or excel in something. And if I am not even following my own rules, do you think they are going to respect the rules truly? Do you think they're going to think that these rules are actually beneficial for everyone? No, they aren't. They're not going to respect it at all. In fact, they're going to think you are a hypocrite as they get older, once they start to recognize the inconsistencies. And I totally see how this is going to erode respect. In addition, they're going to see me as a hypocrite no matter what, because I am. We all are. We all say, no one should ever do that, but then we make a mistake and we do it, right? Everyone does something wrong every day. And that's where we try and have a love and grace-based household, where we're going to look at the individual situation and try and love them through it, give them grace if possible, and just move forward, because we're all hypocrites and we're all not practicing what we preach, and we're all going to lose respect for each other. However, when we focus on the love and grace aspect of our household, then there's a pathway forward. All right. However, you're going to make your life really difficult if you do not practice what you preach, because you're going to ask for a lot of grace from your kids. And I don't think it's, even one time is too much. But again, we don't have a choice. We all make mistakes. So keeping that to a minimum, I think, is key. That's just my opinion. So take-home message: practice what you preach. Be a model of the behavior that you want to see out of your kids. Moving on to the third tip to help increase the odds of you getting respect from your children as they get older. So this is a habit to break to do that. Third one is dismissing their interests. Don't make that a habit. I'm going to read their stuff first. Did you know that by the age of 3, children start developing their own interests? These interests can range from dinosaurs and princesses to even complex things like the solar system. When parents dismiss or belittle these interests, it can be quite discouraging for a child. It sends a message that their passions aren't important. But if you take an active interest in what your child enjoys, you're showing them that their thoughts and feelings matter to you. It helps them feel validated and respected. So next time your child rattles off facts about space or insists on watching the same cartoon over and over again, instead of tuning out, tune in. It could lead to some interesting conversation and a stronger bond with your child. Well, here's my commentary. But first, I'm recording in the morning. I need a little bit of coffee. So if you're drinking in the morning with me and you're drinking your coffee, please Please take a sip. I should have a little bell for that. Anyways, dismissing their interests. Don't make that a habit, especially if you're an unschooler, right? Because we're chasing their interest. We're trying to show them what they desire to do, what they're interested in is worth following, right? Because this may turn into a gift that they should definitely continue to develop. We want them to find who they are, what makes them uniquely them, and then dive headfirst into it, right? So if it is the solar system, dive headfirst into the solar system. Show them that what they think is interesting, just validate it for them by diving in with them. This is, again, that authoritative parenting style where we're not just doing it for discipline, but we're also doing it walking alongside them and going, oh, wow, that's interesting, and learning along with them, learning alongside them. I mean, this is the coolest thing about home education and unschooling in particular is that you get to learn with your child. So if they're interested in calculus, should they get up that far in math, you can learn calculus with them. You don't need to know everything. You discover it with them, and that's really cool. You'll develop your skills, and you'll actually model growing for them, and I think that's really cool. So I think it's a cardinal sin to dismiss their interest, especially with unschooling, because I don't know how that works if you dismiss their interests. I don't think it will work, I guess is what I'm saying. Coffee time. Drink a coffee. Moving on to the next habit. This is the fourth habit that you should definitely not do if you want your kids to respect you, or at least increase the odds of respecting you as they get older, is neglecting promises. I'm going to read what they wrote, and then I'll have commentary. Promises to a child are like law. When we keep our promises, we show them that we are reliable and trustworthy, but when we break them, even for seemingly small things, it can shake their trust in us. Oof. Think about it. If you promised to take your child to the park over the weekend, but you ended up canceling, it sends the message that your commitments aren't important. Keep in mind, our actions set a precedent. If we don't honor our commitments, how can we expect our children to honor theirs? So make a conscious effort to keep your promises, no matter how small they may seem. It's a simple step towards building respect and trust with your child. I totally agree with this. This is my commentary now. I totally agree with this. You can't just say what you want and break your promises unless you want that out of your child, because they're going to mimic you. And I do not think that's a good habit for success in the real world. We all desire an honesty and integrity, honesty from a person, from other people around us, integrity. We desire, just that's the building blocks of relationships, is trust. So we as parents know there is more going on in the world than just going to the park, right? Like the example they used. So you might have a work deadline, and guess what? It's coming up against it, and you have to cancel with your kid. Well, I think that also not just sends the message that your commitments aren't important, but it sends a message that they are the lowest rung on the ladder of, what's the word I'm looking for? They are the excess that's going to get cut every time. They're not as important as whatever took that trip from the park from them, right? So if it's a work project, well, work is the priority. Work is more important than them. I think that's the message they take home. That's what I took home when I was a kid. And I'm sure there's a bunch of different ways to take it. But I do think that if you do not build on a foundation of trust with any relationship, that house will fall. So the more you're able to honor your word, the better, for sure. And, sometimes life happens and we have to break our commitments, but this is where I believe we need to go heavy into, hey, look, this is extenuating circumstances. This is not something that I want to do. My commitment to you is very important. In fact, let's reschedule this because I just didn't anticipate this emergency coming up or whatever it might be. And you just talk them through the real life. It's a learning lesson. Talk them through the real life of dealing with more than one priority at a time. That this thing can't shift. This needs to be done right now. Everything else gets canceled. And it's not because you're not important. It's because this is a time for this. But I'm going to make a commitment to do what we said over here. Is that okay with you? And if they say no, then we need to make a decision on how we want to move forward, because it may be something very, very, very important to them, and maybe that work project is worth letting go. I don't know, but that's up to you to figure out. But follow through with your commitments, and honestly, this is going to keep you from making commitments. If you know you're going to have to follow through or have a difficult conversation with your child and watch their disappointment on their face and know you're going to have to make it up to them if possible, it's going to keep you a little bit more intentional with your commitments. Okay? So block out time in your calendar. Don't let anyone schedule over that if you make a commitment with your kid. The next tip that they give, or habit to drop, to increase the odds of your child respecting you as they get older, is avoiding difficult conversations. And here's what they said. When my son first asked me about the concept of death, I was taken aback. It was a topic I was not prepared to discuss with him. I initially tried to skirt around the question, but he was persistent. Eventually, I realized that if I didn't discuss these difficult topics with him, someone else would, and they might not explain it in a way that's appropriate or sensitive. Avoiding tough conversations can create a communication gap between you and your child. They may feel that they can't approach you with serious or sensitive issues. By being open and honest, even when a topic is uncomfortable, you show your child that they can trust you with anything. This openness fosters respect and encourages a deeper connection with your child. Here's my commentary. Yeah, you need to have difficult conversations as a parent with your kids. You're literally the one that is responsible for making sure that this happens. I totally agree that if you do not step into this role and have these difficult conversations, then someone else will. And my goal is to have those conversations with all my kids to ensure that they have an accurate view of the world, but I don't want to act like an authority figure at the same time. I want to also express others' opinions that might disagree with me on some of these topics, maybe not death, but you can imagine there's other topics that are going to be difficult conversations. And I think some of these are ongoing conversations, so sometimes it's best to start the conversation and make it continue, so that way you're engaging their mind and they can follow up with more questions. But yeah, I totally agree with this. This is also that trust thing. You got to be a safe place to go. You can approach them and have these difficult conversations, but if it doesn't go well, you got to answer the questions. If it doesn't go well, they're not going to come back to you. So just keep that in mind. The next tip for help increasing the odds that your children will respect you as they get older is to drop the habit of always solving their problems. And this is a hard one. Here's what they said. As parents, it's instinctual to want to protect our children from hardship and solve problems for them. But doing this all the time can hinder their ability to learn problem-solving skills on their own. When we jump to fix everything, we inadvertently send the message that we don't trust their capability to handle the situations. This can impact their self-esteem and affect the respect they have for us. Instead, guide them towards finding solutions rather than providing them outright. This not only helps them become independent thinkers, but also strengthens their respect for you as they see you as a mentor rather than a fixer. All right, my commentary. Yeah, don't solve the problems. In fact, let them solve as many as age appropriate as they can. This is them learning. As an unschooler, this is how learning is generated, right? Hey, there's something that is a problem in front of me. I want to make it through this problem. So they can do one of two things. They can say, I'm going to figure this out. And if they do, they get that self-esteem, like the article said. And if they don't, we help them reframe that failure as a lesson, as learning, because that's what it is. And then go back and attack it from a different angle. And you walk alongside them, not telling them what to do or how to do it. Now, there are times where I tell my children how to solve a problem. Like, for example, if the sink is leaking and we're working on the plumbing, I'll tell them this is how you do it. But there are more personal things that it's their journey to figure it out. For example, if they're trying to, I don't know, they love video games, and there's some of these problem-solving video games. I'm going to let them figure it out. I might give them a little bit of hints or give them a little bit of commentary, something like that, but I want to give them the credit. I want them, because they're going to solve the problem. Same can be said for building Legos or some kind of structure in the backyard or anything like that. I want to build thinkers and problem solvers because I think that skill set in the future is going to be very valuable. And as unschoolers, that is one of the things we really focus on, is being able to solve problems. That's guaranteed worth in the workplace. Whether you're an entrepreneur, freelancer, or you're working for an employer, everyone values a problem solver, unless your job is to shut your mouth and just do, like a factory worker, which is what our schools train our kids to do. I'll stop there on that one. The last tip that they give, or the last tip or last habit they say to drop in order to increase the odds of having your kids respect you when you get older, or as they get older, is not showing them respect. Here's their commentary. This is perhaps the most critical point. If you want your child to respect you as they get older, you must first show them respect. Respect their time, their feelings, their thoughts, and their space. Teach them that respect is a two-way street. By treating your child with the respect they deserve, you model the behavior you wish to see in return. It's a fundamental principle of mutual respect that can transform your relationship with your child. Now my commentary, but first I sip of coffee. That's good. You got to show them respect. If you want your child to be respected, you have to show them respect. Now, it's a fine line between respect and treating them as an equal. They are certainly not equal. You are the parent. But you can elevate them, right? Because you have to pull rank every once in a while as a parent. No, you're not going to eat ice cream, and that's all you're going to eat for the rest of your life. You're going to eat real food, right? You can picture this conversation. But when you're talking to them, talk to them like they're a real person who deserves respect. Because if you treat them as a person who does not deserve respect, that is how others will treat them too. They are going to lower their standards of how they are going to be treated. You are modeling also how respect should be given to another person. You are showing them how it feels to be respected. You are telling them that they are worthy of respect. So that way, when they get that friend who isn't very respectful and treats them poorly, my hope is that I stack the deck in my favor, or my kid's favor, that they will not continue that friendship if that child, their friend, does not treat them with respect. I know when I was a kid, I had a very good friend growing up who did not treat me with respect. Now, my parents treated me with respect, but I was very insecure. And I had this construct in my head, this belief, this false belief that I just didn't deserve it, right? Because this kid knew what he was doing, and I'm just going to follow, and he can go over and always be first player in all the video games, and always tell me which video game we're going to play, and always tell me what we're going to do next. And it didn't matter what I wanted, he would always do it. But he was actually a cool guy, and I got along with him well, and honestly, a lot of the stuff that he enjoyed, I enjoyed, so I let it slide. And it took me years to get over that lack of respect and to realize that I am worthy of respect because I'm acting within my integrity, and I'm acting in a respectful way because I know where my worth comes from, and I know where other people's worth comes from, and I'm going to respect them as just an individual, as a human. I'm not always right. That was another thing I had to get over. If your child is acting like they are on equal footing, which is how one of my children often acts, I have to make sure that they understand that they are not a parent. But at the same time, it's one of those things. It's like one of my kids' gifts is to kind of be antagonistic. Like, he'd make a great lawyer. He always has a great point to come back with, and he always has a great argument for whatever. But no, I respect your opinion, but here's how it's going to play out. I don't want to push up against, like trying to erode them and make them feel like they have less of a self-worth, like they don't deserve the respect. Because as parents, sometimes whatever our child is gifted with can be the biggest curse in the household. If your child is going to be a great lawyer one day, well, guess what? If you squash that ability to build an argument and to defend why you did what you did, or your actions, then you may squash the very thing that he or she's gifted in, right? And whatever they're going to do and whatever skill set they develop that centers around that, I don't want to squash. I don't want to squash those gifts. I want to redirect those gifts. So that way I'm respecting their gifts and them as an individual and not squashing their future. or affecting their self-esteem, self-worth, whatever it might be. So I try and respect my children in what their individual interests are, what they want to do, how they manage their life, and I try and give them enough autonomy to be able to juggle that. Of course, it's age appropriate, but it's very important to me that we respect each other, and I think that's going to build respect in the future. So with that, I'm going to end today's episode. So stay curious, stay unschooled, and stay away from the algebra nightmares. I'll catch you in the next episode. So here's where we roll up our sleeves and bring out the big guns. If you support our mission, then please leave a review. On Unschooled Unleashed, we are talking about using a radical approach to education in today's world, and the more 5-star reviews we have, the more people will feel comfortable with the ideas, strategies, and principles we discuss. It gives legitimacy to our message, and the podcast's algorithm prioritizes us so we can reach more people. You may even have your 5-star review read on our podcast. Before I let you go, I have to pause and say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Your presence here is the fuel that ignites this movement. I am incredibly moved that you trust in us enough to click play. You, my friends, are the caped heroes in this story, the guardians of your family's learning journey, and a beacon of hope for your community. Be bold. Do what you think is best for you and your family. Thanks again for tuning in and taking this courageous leap outside of the box for this educational revolution. Welcome to the front line.